And since that time, some members of both gangs have looked for new ways to redirect their energy. And as Mary Major Jack shows us, they're turning their frustrations into money.
Bangin On Wax is an album containing the redirected energies of members of the Bloods and the Crips, two violent rival Los Angeles gangs. The idea was to have the gang members deal with their differences verbally instead of physically and create some honest income.
Whoever rapping that's the blood right now know about Braze. I don't give a who you are. Gang, I don't give a who you are. You know, Lil Wayne probably know who B Braze is.
Everybody knows.
That's how popular.
The album went gold, peaking at number 86 on Billboard. But for many of the voices behind it, the story didn't end in fame. It ended in bloodshed. AWOL was ended by police. Big Freeze gunned down. B Brazy ambushed. Peanut shot 17 times. Lil Lanny Actio slayed his own daughter by his side. Even more names fell: Spider OG, Maddie, Bloody Mary, turning what could have been a breakthrough into a chilling legacy of loss. So how did this all begin? Back in 1993, Los Angeles was drowning in chaos.
I don't look at them as being Bloods or Crips. I look at them as being my brother. Once we understood that, we started a relationship. And once you start a relationship, then you can work together. Then you become business partners. Then you can grow, become producers, actors, whatever. Because these guys make more money than I do in a week, just on the street. So my thing was to come up with a record. These guys can make some money and can better.
Bloods and Crips were at battle, trading bullets in an endless cycle of revenge, with Compton, Watts, Long Beach, and Inglewood carrying the scars of years of street conflict. But in the middle of the madness, a wild idea sparked. A plan to drag gang voices off the corners and into the recording booth. That vision became Banging on Wax. The concept was bold. Real gang members would audition. The best would make the cut, and together they'd turn their street battle into raw music. At the heart of it stood OYG Redrum 781, a blood out of Avenue Peru, and Tweety Bird Locke, a Crip from Kelly Park, Compton. Redrum first crossed paths with Tweety and producer Robert Lewis at a rap competition, where he placed third out of 200 competitors. From that moment, the seed was planted. Together, they pitched the idea to Lewis, who brought in producer Ronnie Phillips, a man who instantly got it.
First off, I'm from Inglewood, the city of Inglewood, if you don't know, from Avenue Piru, APG. And we located on Crenshaw between the 109th, 104th, and 108th. So those are our blocks. So like my brother came up with a thing because like all my homies was banging. You know what I'm saying? They would be block tripping. You know what I'm saying?
And let's remind everybody, your brother is the late, great Red Rum 781.
Oh, yeah, Red Rum 781.
Phillips believed the studio could serve as neutral territory, a place where enemies could trade verses instead of bullets. But making that vision real wasn't smooth. Old grudges spilled into the sessions, voices clashed, and tempers flared. Still, one rule kept order. The studio was for music, not violence. No weapons, no street beef. Leave it all outside. In the end, 16 members signed on, dropping their guns at the door and unleashing their stories into the mic. Among them was Bloody Mary, the lone woman on the project, carving her own spot in a historic, dangerous experiment. Her voice was deep, powerful, and commanding. So much so that plenty of listeners actually thought she was a man. Born in Steubenville, Ohio, she eventually made her way to Compton, where she linked up with the Avenue Peru and Fruittown Peru sets. That's where she crossed paths with Tweety Bird Locke, who pulled her into the project that would change her life. Another big name tied to the roster was Lil Lee, Redrum's own younger brother, also repping Avenue Peru. His involvement added a whole new layer, proving this wasn't just about beats and rhymes, it was about bloodlines and legacy. For producer Ronnie Phillips, though, it was about something even deeper. In one interview, he admitted, "I don't see Bloods and Crips, I see my brothers." His mission was clear. If he could get these men to drop the guns, step into the booth, and realize there was real money in music, maybe he could save lives. And what came out of those late-night sessions was way bigger than an experiment. It was raw therapy, pain flipped into poetry, street battles channeled into bars.
We put it together. Everybody in their relationship said, hey, could you come down to the studio? So they did. We not knowing what part of the barrels of South Central that the Crips and Bloods was going to come from. And everyone came with Tech 9s, AKs, 357s you could think of, but we in trench coats and heavy coat cover up.
There were still flare-ups, sure, but the real shock was how often rival gangsters stood side by side, not on hostile corners, but shoulder to shoulder at a mic stand. When Banging on Wax dropped in March 1993, it shook the streets. This wasn't some fake studio gangsta act. This was the real thing. Voices straight from the battle zones of Los Angeles. And people felt it. Against all odds, the record climbed to number 86 on the Billboard 200 and went gold, selling over 500,000 copies. Tracks like Bangin' On Wax, Crip, 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 and Steady Dippin' hit different because they weren't fantasies. They were reality. For a moment, music carved out a fragile truce, capturing not just the ears of the streets, but the attention of the entire rap industry. These weren't polished studio fantasies crafted for radio play. They were raw slices of street life, delivered unfiltered. But the album didn't just hit with grit. It shocked listeners with unexpected moments, too. Take Piru Love, for example. The track became an anthem, and its smooth, melodic hook, sung by Faux Clips Eclipse, a Crip, blew people's minds. A Crip lending his voice to a Bloods anthem? That wasn't just rare, it was historic, a symbol of the fragile unity that had been built inside those tense studio walls. The reach only grew once the visuals dropped. Music videos for Bangin' On Wax, Piru Love, and Steady Dippin' hit TV screens, showing the real faces, the real energy behind the bars.
Trying to show them that we can come together, make a record, and show positive issues, and at the same time, prove that we have talents, other than just pulling triggers and doing whatever.
Steady Dippin', performed by the Crip collective Underworld Connection, even featured DJ Battlecat, one of the most respected names in West Coast hip-hop. That cosign alone stamped the project with major credibility. Then came one of the most unforgettable moments, the debut of Sin Lock, the masked Crip whose mysterious presence left fans hooked. And then there was AWOL from Kelly Park Compton Crips, who became impossible to ignore. He wasn't just another voice. He dropped more lyrics than anyone else across the Bangin' On Wax series and owned his video performances on tracks like Bangin' On Wax and G's and Locks. His style made him one of the collective's most recognizable figures. The industry couldn't ignore it either. Even Suge Knight took notice as he built Death Row Records into a powerhouse. He snatched up Bloody Mary, the lone female on the first album, whose deep, commanding voice had already carved her a unique spot. Her signing proved this wasn't just a street experiment anymore, it was serious business. With the first album proving the vision was real, a sequel dropped in 1994, Bangin' On Wax 2, the saga continues. While it didn't shake the game like the debut, it still left a mark, landing at number 139 on the Billboard 200 and climbing to number 20 on the R&B/hip-hop chart. Music videos for tracks like G's and Locks and Wish You Were Here kept the buzz alive, pushing the project further into the spotlight. For a brief moment, it felt like the impossible had been pulled off. Rivals who once exchanged gunfire were now sharing verses, standing on the same stage, and proving that their stories carried weight far beyond the blocks they came from.
I did a couple rap competitions. Actually, that's how we started Bangin' On Wax. I did a rap competition. Out of probably around 150 to 200 rappers, I took third place. That's how I met Tweety Bird and Ronnie Phillip.
But as the music climbed the charts, the streets refused to loosen their grip. That fragile unity held strong in the studio. But outside those walls, LA's neighborhoods were still drowning in bloodshed. Bangin' On Wax had shown the world that beats could bridge gaps bullets never would, but it couldn't erase decades of gang warfare. And soon, the price of that reality came crashing down. In November 1995, Peanut 2, repping Denver Lane Bloods and featured on the Damu Ritas side of the project, was ambushed and gunned down by rival Crips. 17 bullets ripped through him, ending his life instantly. His passing was a gut punch, not just to the collective, but to everyone who believed music might shield these men from the streets they came from. That same year, tragedy struck again. Lil Lonnie Act 2, also tied to Denver Lane Bloods and a Damu Ritas contributor, was ended in a ruthless vehicle ambush by members of the 83 Gangsters. The horror cut even deeper because his young daughter was present during the shooting. That loss wasn't just another headline. It shattered a family forever. The bloodshed didn't slow down. By 1996, Tiptoe, from Crenshaw Mafia Bloods and part of the Damu Ritas, was slayed by a member of the neighborhood Piru gang.
Basically, how the Where do retirement papers come in, blood? At what age do I turn into a kickback OG gangster or some old shit? Man, that ain't gonna never happen, blood. My goals in life ain't to be a OG, period. That's for real, YG for life, huh? I mean, on lanes, think I'm a YG, period. That's the best I can.
The cycle of retaliation seemed endless, swallowing more names into the grave. And it wasn't only the blood side taking losses. The Crips were hit hard too. AWOL, born Donald Stallworth, one of the most recognized members of the nationwide Rip Ritas, was gunned down on June 4th, 1997. But here's the shocking twist. It wasn't gang rivals who ended him. It was a police officer in Oceanside, California. His passing proved once again that no matter how far their music traveled, the streets and the system were always waiting. A WOL's passing cut deep in the circle. Close friends like Gangsta Bone and BG Scarface mourned openly, with Gangsta Bone even dropping a tribute track to honor him. But the heartbreak didn't stop there. The decade closed with another brutal loss. On December 25th, 1999, Big Freeze, real name Lazen Kenner, a Watts Franklin Square Crip and member of the nationwide Rip Ritas, was shot on Christmas Day. A holiday meant for peace turned into yet another bloody headline, leaving the streets shaken and the project's legacy stained with grief. By the time the 1990s ended, the body count was staggering. 7 of the 9 core members of the Damu Ritas were gone, gunned down in gang-related violence. What began as a groundbreaking attempt to flip street warfare into music had collided head-on with the reality that beats couldn't always shield their creators from bullets. These early casualties became a grim foreshadowing of what was still to come. The truth was clear. While Banging On Wax gave Unity a spotlight, it also carried a dangerous edge. Those diss tracks weren't playful jabs, they were venom.
Me, Lil Hawk, D-Braze, Laniac, man, f***ing Spider, Bloody Mary, all of them are gone. Except me, all of them are gone.
Raw, vicious insults that reopened wounds, reignited grudges, and in some cases, turned microphones into weapons sharper than knives. Even BG Knockout, the Compton rapper best remembered for his legendary collaboration with Eazy-E on Real G's, admitted he stayed far away from the project. He revealed that he was invited to join the original sessions, but turned it down because he knew the risk was sky high. In his own words, the whole concept was doomed from the start, dropping disses against rivals you were already at battle with, then blasting it across every block in LA. BG called it straight up crazy. He broke it down plain and simple. The 1990s were the deadliest years of gangbanging, and putting raw, explicit disses on wax wasn't just reckless, it was social suicide. The streets weren't forgiving, and the tragedies that rocked the first wave of Banging On Wax artists in the mid-90s were only the opening act of a much darker story. By 2000, the cycle claimed another life. Spider, also known as SP Crenshaw Mafia blood tied to the Damu Ritas, was at a block party in Watts. What should have been a night of community fun exploded into chaos when members of the Rollin' 60s Crips opened fire. Bullets sprayed, panic broke out, and Spider was ended on the spot, turning celebration into carnage.
Came up with the concept of Banging On Wax. Me and Tweety Bird took it to Robert Lewis, which is his studio. So he took the idea to Ronnie Phillips, and then that's when the album was made, that's when History was made, and that's when they f***ed us over.
Soon after, another devastating blow landed. OG Mahdi, also from Crenshaw Mafia Bloods and a voice on the Damu Ritas' side, was gunned down in a drive-by. But the horror doubled. His brother, Lil Mad, was taken in the same attack. 2 brothers erased in one burst of violence, leaving a hole no family or neighborhood could ever patch up. By the early 2000s, one figure had risen to the forefront, B. Brazy. Born Bruce Parrish of Denver Lane Bloods, he wasn't just admired for his bars. He had charisma that lit up every track he touched. Fellow artists, including Lil Lee, remembered him as someone who lived by the code. Brazy himself once admitted he would never stop banging. But those words became prophecies. On May 9th, 2003, his past came calling. Ambushed in Inglewood, he was shot multiple times. Later discovered unresponsive at the Sandman Motel on West Manchester Boulevard. His slayer shook the city, and to this day it remains unsolved. Police even put up a $25,000 reward for answers, but nothing stuck. Whispers filled the air. Some pointed to betrayal within his circle. Others swore it was rivals setting him up. But the truth never surfaced. And not all the heartbreak was tied directly to gang warfare. Bloody Mary, the lone female powerhouse from the first Bangin On Wax album, met a completely different fate. Born Rajni Faz, she had carved out respect in a male-dominated scene with her deep, commanding voice. But on November 19, 2006, while riding her motorcycle through Compton, her story took a sudden and tragic turn. Bloody Mary's story ended in tragedy, straight out of a nightmare.
Is on one side, the Crips is on one side. We're looking at each other. Some of us know each other, some of us don't. Some of us want to communicate, some of us don't, because it's like I don't know what to get from it.
While riding her motorcycle through Compton, she was struck during a high-speed police chase. A truck fleeing officers slammed directly into her bike. The impact left her brain dead, and not long after, life support was pulled. Just like that, another powerful voice from the project was gone, adding yet another heartbreaking chapter to the saga. But even for those who dodged bullets, survival wasn't guaranteed. Inner demons claimed lives too. BG Scarface, a Crip from Atlantic Drive, Compton, and one of the strongest voices on the nationwide Rip Readers, lived through the bloody battles of the 1990s. But in 2012, he was found passed, with his passing ruled a suicide. The pain didn't stop when the gunfire did. It found other ways to claim them. The funerals stacked up endlessly. Lil Lee, who had already seen the rise and fall of so many peers, remembered a stretch where every year meant another service, sometimes more than one. By his own count, he lost around 30 friends from Avenue Peru alone, and another 20 tied to Crenshaw Mafia. Some fell to violence, others to prison, a few to illness, but the losses just never stopped. The streets demanded their price, and while Bangin On Wax gave a voice to those who were usually silenced, it couldn't shield its creators from reality. The dream of swapping guns for microphones was powerful, but in Los Angeles, survival was always a gamble, no matter how loud the music played.
I mean, I didn't know half the guys, but they came there, no violence. I mean, it was a little confrontations, but when everybody understood, hey man, we're here to make records. We're not here to fight and kill each other. We're here to make records. It was cool.
Later on down the line, we will put these away, you know what I'm saying, and be able to kick it amongst one another without having to say, damn, that's blood, or I'm a Crip, you know what I'm saying? We can just kick it. Homeboys, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be loved ones, yeah, it's gonna be.
By the early 2000s, Bangin On Wax had fizzled as a group project, but the echoes refused to fade. Survivors tried to hustle their way into solo careers, fighting to stay relevant as the rap game evolved. Others walked away complete music behind, but forever carrying the weight of what they had once built. For some, the end of Bangin On Wax wasn't closure. It was the start of a new, lonely chapter. Some members carried the torch beyond the group, showing their individuality in powerful ways. B. Brazy, before his shocking passing in 2003, had been working on solo tracks dripping with the raw reality of street life. His music carried both his undeniable charisma and the intensity of someone who never truly left the gang world behind. Bloody Mary, with her deep, booming voice, carved her own path too, standing out as one of the few women who could go bar for bar in that gritty West Coast gangster rap era. Lil Lee, one of the early voices tied to Bangin On Wax, kept pushing forward as well. Though forever rooted in his Pyru identity, he used rap not only as an outlet, but as a tool for mentoring. Over the years, Lee admitted the weight of the lifestyle had scarred him. Funerals, betrayals, and endless prison sentences took their toll. Yet he still clung to music as a way to honor fallen friends and keep their memory alive.
I'm really worried about is the BJs, the baby gangsters. And once they realize, hey man, instead of me picking up my 9 to shoot you, I'd rather pick up an ink pen and write a diss rhyme. You know, that's basically.
Not everyone managed to rise above it. For every artist who tried to build on the momentum of Bangin On Wax, there were others who slipped back into the cycle, incarcerated, caught in street beefs, or trapped in the same neighborhoods that had birthed them. Music opened doors, but it couldn't always erase the instincts drilled into them from years of survival in the gang trenches. Meanwhile, the rap scene in Los Angeles had shifted. By the mid-2000s, a fresh wave of artists, most notably The Game, brought gang affiliation roaring back into the mainstream spotlight. But unlike Bangin On Wax, which physically united Bloods and Crips in the same studio, this new generation leaned more on branding, colors, and set claims as part of their marketable image. For the veterans of Bangin On Wax, the difference was clear. Their music was born out of real, dangerous unity, not just record label packaging, the legacy of Bangin On Wax turned out bittersweet. These artists had been pioneers, giving gangs a space in rap long before the industry dared to touch it. But while labels later cashed in on the culture, many of the original voices were left fighting just to survive. Still, the impact didn't fade. Interviews, documentaries, and retrospectives kept resurfacing.
Red is the color identified with the Bloods. The Crips wear blue. 16 gang members have put aside their weapons and their differences and united as rap.
Always highlighting how groundbreaking that first project really was. Scholars, journalists, and hip-hop fans pointed out that what Ron Phillips orchestrated in 1993 wasn't just some gimmick, it was a time capsule, a raw snapshot of Los Angeles in one of its most explosive eras. The music didn't just spit bravado, it captured the pain, frustration, and day-to-day struggle of neighborhoods ripped apart by gang warfare. For the members who lived to tell it, the legacy was both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, they were part of something historic, an album that charted on Billboard and etched itself into hip-hop history forever. On the other hand, the trail of funerals and broken lives was a constant reminder of just how fragile existence was in the gang world. As the years rolled on, their paths split. Some chased music with new hunger, while others faded into quieter lives away from the mic. Yet whether they stayed in the game or walked away, the shadow of Bangin On Wax followed them everywhere. It was the chapter they could never escape, a project balanced perfectly between hope and destruction, unity and bloodshed. So what do you think? Was Bangin On Wax a miracle of music or just a dangerous experiment doomed from the start? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. So what do you think? Was Bangin On Wax a miracle of music or just a dangerous experiment doomed from the start? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.